I want to thank you all for being here today and start by expressing my deepest gratitude, not just to those who have joined us here today, but to the millions of Americans who have poured out their love, prayers, and support for Erica, Charlie's family, and the Turning Point USA community during this heartbreaking time. Like so many of you, I'm still struggling to process the reality of Charlie's absence. It's hard to accept that someone so vibrant and so full of life is no longer with us. But in my heart, I know Charlie would not want us to throw in the towel. He'd tell us to pick up the mic, to keep pushing, and to carry his movement forward with unwavering resolve. I first met Charlie on August 5th, 2018 at Turning Point USA's Young Women Leadership Summit. I just left the Air Force and was working as a counter-trafficking activist, planning on attending medical school. At the time, Turning Point was a small organization with maybe a few hundred people at every conference. I vividly remember seeing Charlie walk through the crowd, young, wearing sneakers, of course, with his suits, yet radiating a larger-than-life aura. And when he passed by, I remember hearing people say, "That's Charlie Kirk." Even then, you could feel his energy, his vision, and his ability to inspire. That conference was my own turning point for me. It's where I met some of my closest friends, many of whom are now some of the most influential and biggest names in conservative and Republican politics. I also saw women I admired speak boldly about issues that mattered. And what I didn't know at the time is that Charlie and Turning Point USA was scouting me to become their National Hispanic Outreach Director. Charlie had this extraordinary gift of being able to recognize things in people before they realized it for themselves. In 2018, when young conservatives and Republicans were not being engaged by the GOP, Turning Point was ahead of the curve, and that was because of Charlie's vision and leadership. Not long after that summit, I received an unexpected phone call from Fox News inviting me on air. I'd never done television, and I had no idea how they got my contact, and after pressing the producer, I later found out that Charlie had pitched me to the network in an effort to advocate for me sharing my immigration perspective. That was always Charlie, thinking about how to lift up other voices, amplify new perspectives, and strengthen the movement. He understood the challenges that we collectively face together, and he knew that he couldn't do it alone. Shortly after that, I was literally preparing to go to medical school, bags packed, and I kid you not, 24 hours prior, I got a call that changed my life. "Hey Anna, it's Charlie Kirk from Turning Point USA, and I'd like to offer you a job as our National Hispanic Outreach Director." 24 hours prior, guys. That was my fork in the road. Was I going to continue on what I thought my path was, or was I going to pay attention to God knocking at the door and showing me that there might be a different one? And so, in about 6 hours, I decided that I would stay and help fight socialism on college campuses alongside Charlie Kirk. And that's where the real adventure began. I'll never forget our first tabling campus event. It was in Portland, Oregon, so you know where I'm going with this. You may have seen the video, Charlie Kirk wearing an ice hat, sitting at a table with a sign that read, "There are only two genders." As I sat there next to him, student after student approached the debate, often with heated emotions, but Charlie remained cool, calm, and logical, and one by one, no matter how controversial the question was, he would dismantle them with his reasoning. And that's when I realized something. Charlie Kirk didn't need college, college needed Charlie Kirk. Those college tours are some of my fondest memories. Charlie's work ethic was truly unmatched, only probably rivaled by President Trump. He'd be on a different plane every day in a new city at a new campus, all while fundraising, engaging in social media, appearing on different media outlets, and still running Turning Point USA. But yet when he sat at that table or in the chair ready to debate anyone, he was truly in his element, fearless, focused, and fully committed to the truth. I saw Turning Point grow from those early days of a few hundred attendees to conferences with thousands upon thousands of young people, all inspired by Charlie's vision. Turning Point wasn't just a nonprofit, it's a movement. a force for change to empower young conservatives to take a stand. Walking into Turning Point's headquarters for the first time, I was struck by the energy of young people, dynamic, creative, and passionate. My age were running the entire operation. They were making politics fun and accessible and impactful, and Charlie had built something extraordinary, and it was truly changing the political landscape. One day, Charlie and I were talking. He said, "Anna, you really need to share your story." He knew my background and understood the power of personal connection. He taught me that while identity politics was real, not everyone thought that way, and stories like mine could help combat the narrative. I remember one of Turning Point's first events at Mar-a-Lago, showing up and being next to this wonderful lady who was looking at him beam on stage. I realized I'd been sitting next to Charlie Kirk's mom and how proud she was to see her young boy there. I was already on social media, but Charlie showed me how to use it effectively, how to respond to headlines, especially those with false narratives, and how to win the argument with truth. Truth is the best disinfectant, he would say, and he truly lived by that principle. When I decided to run for Congress, I had no idea what I was doing. My own party worked against me, but Charlie was one of the few who backed me from the very beginning. Turning Point helped me knock doors, and Charlie invited me onto his podcast to share my message. In a world where political alliances are often transactional, Charlie asked for nothing in return. To him, it was about saving our country and advancing the movement. He introduced me to some incredible people, like Caroline Leavitt, who was running for office at that time as well. Charlie hosted us both at the Student Action Summit, and I often joke that Charlie's probably the only reason why I have friends. Some of the many people that I'm closest today, I met through his organization and this movement. Charlie was more than a commentator, or a show host, or an online personality. He was a patriot in every sense of the word. He lived to preserve our nation's founding principles, not just through words, but through action. He did not just complain about the state of our country, he did something about it. Even as a private citizen, Charlie advised sitting members of Congress. During the 2022 speakers fight, he called me to check in and asked me what was going on. As I'm sure you guys can imagine, it was kind of chaotic. After explaining everything, he said, "Okay, just make sure that you guys know when to take the deal, all right?" President Trump called me shortly thereafter and echoed the same advice, and that's the kind of influence Charlie had. Strategic, brilliant, and trusted. I remember discussing inherent contempt with Charlie. Charlie was fascinated, always eager to dive into the details and strategize. And I saw Charlie evolve from a young man tabling on college campuses to a global leader where he remained humble and still driven. Whether at conferences, on video calls for media hits, or at Mar-a-Lago, he was always Charlie, encouraging and pushing us to be our best. During this past election cycle, I saw him in Arizona at a campaign stop while I was campaigning with now Vice President J.D. Vance. He pulled me aside to share messaging tips, as he always did, and of course I took his advice because it always worked. Backstage, he was chatting it up with J.D. and doing what he did best, building a movement one conversation at a time. The last time I saw Charlie in person was at the Student Action Summit in Tampa. I spoke on a show, addressed the students, and spent time with my friend. That day, I talked a little bit about the evil that we face in our world, a topic Charlie was passionate about, as he used his platform to reach millions, not just to discuss politics, but to share his faith and point people toward God. Charlie Kirk will go down in history as one of the greatest political minds and activists of our lifetime. His impact places him alongside transformative figures like Dr. Martin Luther King, John F. Kennedy, and Robert F. Kennedy. Leaders who inspired movements, challenged the status quo, and fought for what they believed in. Charlie's legacy is not just in the ideas that he championed, but the countless of lives that he's touched, the voices he amplified, and the movement that he built. Though Charlie's no longer with us physically, his spirit lives on. And in my heart, according to the scriptures, I know that I will see my friend again one day. Since his passing, Turning Point USA has received the request to start over 32,000 new college campus chapters. Churches are overflowing, and young people across the country are asking how they can get involved. Charlie's legacy is keeping this movement alive, and it's up to us to carry it forward. So I want to leave you with the very same advice that Charlie gave me once upon a time. Share your story, get involved, join the movement, help others, run for office, but above all, keep the debate alive and pray. Truth will always prevail. To Erica and Charlie's family, you have my word, alongside with every single person that was on the stage and millions of other Americans, including some of the most powerful voices in Washington, D.C., that we will continue Charlie's mission. His vision, his courage, and his love of country will live on through all of us. Thank you, and God bless.